I'm a bit groggy because I only flew in this morning, so, you know, give me a bit of leeway as I tell my story. And I'm so pleased to be able to share this story with you because it's just a story of ordinary folk in that town there, Todmorden, in the north of England, where I live, who have the will and the passion to build a different future, a fairer future for their kids. It's all a bit crazy. It's been a whirlwind 4 years, but I hope I can take you along with me. So this is Todmorden. It's a very ordinary town, working class town in the north of the country. And it used to look like that. And now it looks more like that. With fruit and vegetables and orchards springing up all over the town, in the centre of the town, from its heart right through to its edges. We call them propaganda gardens. We've got them at the railway station, at the doctor's. Sometimes we ask if we can do it, and sometimes we don't. We've got them along our verges, we've got them at our railway station, and that would be difficult here, I know, but I'm sure there's great things you can do over your metros. And we've invented a new form of tourism. It's called vegetable tourism. And people from all over the world come and poke around in the beds that we've created as volunteers in the heart of our town, showing people what's possible to grow. They come and poke, they come from all over the globe, and often there's absolutely nothing in them because we are in the north of England and it's not the best place to grow. But they come and they start a conversation. And we're not doing it because we've nothing else to do with our lives, because we're bored. We're doing it to start a revolution, to start a movement for ordinary people, irrespective of age, income, or culture. People who need to think about how they're behaving, but nobody's respected them enough to engage them in a conversation before this. So this movement is a really simple movement to join. If you eat, you're in. That's all there is to it. And we've chosen food for that very reason, because it is a catalyst for change in people's lives, and because everybody gets it. And why are we doing this? Well, it's really appropriate that I'm here in Brazil, because I have to tell you, 20 years ago, when I was leader of a local authority and did all the other stuff that I've done in my life, which is why I know there has to be a different way of doing it, because that doesn't work. The Earth Summit, the leaders of the world came together and they said, we need to do things differently. It's time for change. We cannot continue to consume at the levels we're consuming. We need to think about social justice, environmental justice, as well as economic justice. Well, I don't know about you, but I haven't seen a lot of action when it comes to the leaders of the national states. And you know, in the absence of nothing happening in that area, we just thought we'd do it ourselves. Because this is a time for action, not words. We need to be able to look back in 20 years' time and say, thank God we started the movement when we did. Because it really doesn't matter what temperature rise is going to be, or what the exact level of the sea is, or what energy we're going to. Our children, your children, are going to have some real challenges, and we need to do everything we possibly can to help them to live happier, healthier, kinder lives, and we need to do it now. And we don't have to ask for anybody's permission. This is our gift to the future, and we do not have to wait for a check to hit the bank before we start, and we most certainly do not have to listen to the sophisticates and the successful people in the systems we've got now, who will tell us it is pointless coming together with these small actions, given the scale of the challenges that are ahead of us. It is pointless. Well, it is not pointless, because I have seen the power of small actions, and it is awesome. And so, 4 years ago, we didn't consult, we didn't write a report, we didn't write a strategy document. You don't need to know any more than you know now. We need to act. 4 years ago, we sat around a kitchen table in my friend's front room, and we made the whole thing up. We put forward a proposition that said, is it possible that we can find a unifying language that cuts across age, income and culture, that helps people believe in themselves again, that helps them see space differently, interact differently, use resources differently? Is it possible for us to change behaviour from the bottom up? And then can we replicate it? And the answer is yes. And the language is food. And we put that proposition to a public meeting 4 years ago, and we said, imagine our town, our city, our neighbourhood, whatever it might be, is split into 3 areas: community, how we live our everyday lives, learning, what our kids learn in schools and what we teach each other, and business, how we support, through the pound in our pocket, what we're actually doing. And if we imagined actions around food and just food, agitating those plates, is it possible we can build resilience from the bottom up? Is it possible that we can find a new way of regenerating and investing in kindness? And the whole room exploded. And from that moment on, and in every single place where I've ever told this story, I have seen the light go on in some people's eyes, and I know that I'm on the right track. Let me give you some examples of what we've done. Health centre. Now, 5 years ago, they built a brand new health centre in the middle of my town. They spent £6 million on it, and they surrounded it with prickly plants. A health centre. So we went to the doctors and we said, would you mind if we took up those prickly plants and planted apple trees and pear trees and herbs and things people can eat? Because we thought it would be quite a good idea for families going to a health centre to be able to pick healthy food. So they said, OK, you can do that, provided it doesn't cost us a penny. So we fundraised and we did it. And now we've got a health centre in a small orchard, and we've got herbs, and we've got strawberries to pick, and we've got raspberries. And those kids going there day in and day out will see food differently than they have done in the past, where so often it's in plastic, in a supermarket, on a shelf. And then we did the railway station, and we took over a corner, and we worked with some boys who'd been quite naughty with the police, and they helped us to build this. We got the wood from a refuse site, and now we've got propaganda garden there where people get off the train, help themselves to herbs, help themselves to vegetables, help themselves to whatever they want. And people do not vandalise food. And they do not take everything, and that might be counterintuitive, but it's true. And you know, if they do take everything, it's potatoes, it's not a pyramid. You just replant them. And then we've got the community college. We'd made a mistake here because we took up some beautiful roses and we really upset some old people, so we planted them again back. But what we've got here is a load of vegetables planted in front of the college on a main road. So kids going to that school can start to see what some of that vegetable looks like. And the really interesting thing about this is that the local scout group, young people, are now, through the pressure that they've put on their national organisation, be able to get an Incredible Edible badge as an indication that they understand the importance of food in their lives and the importance of a living soil. And it's just an experiment and we're only volunteers. And then we thought, well, why don't we give the police a go? So we built some raised beds in front of the police station, and you know, they absolutely adore it. The police come from all over England to have a look at what we're doing in the centre of our town. And the police statistics themselves say that the relationship with the general public has never been better, because they smile and they talk and the tensions just dissipate. And on top of that, environmental vandalism in the middle of the town has dropped. And that's their figures, not ours. So don't tell me food can't change behaviour. And then we've got this on the corner of our canal. And this is not just always about food, this is about pollinators. So we got a local artist to build this Willow Sculpture, and it's really cute. So the little kids go in one end, and they go in and they wander around, and then they pop out the other end, and it says, you have just done the waggle dance of the bee. And then they start to learn about the importance of the other creatures that we share this planet with. And we're not doing it to be worthy, we're doing it to help them understand they are part of something so much bigger that they need to invest in. And whilst a load of people are doing this, oh, one other thing. My friend Mary, whose kitchen table we sat round, this is her front garden. And she took down that wall and she replanted all her flowers with edibles that you can share and you can pick. And there's a great story from this which I tell every single time, because for me, it makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. A young family walk every single day past here up to one of our estates where some of our poorer people live. They come back down to school, and eventually, after 2 years, because up till that point they thought they might have been shot or hit or something for picking food from somebody else's garden, They stopped and they picked, and then they went home. And then the children came back again with the outside of the leaves, the cabbages, the brassicas, whatever, and put them in that compost bin. And that was great. But the very next morning, on the doorstep of Mary's house, was a bowl of soup made of the vegetables picked in the garden by those people who had never spoken to Mary before in their lives. And that is community. And that is what you can do if you put your mind to it. And then there's learning. While people are doing this, others are doing learning. Of course, we want to introduce our children at the earliest stage to the importance of soil and the environment and food. But not every school has got places to grow. So here is a disused tennis court where we've made raised beds so that the communities around it can start to grow their own food. And some schools don't have anything at all, but they are next to a graveyard, where the soil is, as I always say, very good. And the interesting thing about this is that those children now are growing after school and putting that food on the table. And more interestingly, those children are not afraid of being in that graveyard. Okay? Changing behaviour. And then aquaponics. We worked with our high school. This is the maddest thing we ever did. And we built an aquaponics unit. You've heard about that from Fran earlier on today. We're going to grow fish and hydroponic vegetables in an orchard with bees. And these kids and that teacher are helping us do it in their spare time. And the sixth formers in that school are on the board of the social enterprise that will be producing the vegetables and the fish for sale on the market, as well as cooking in the classrooms. It has been a nightmare to build, but we are nearly there. And it will be so exciting because the future around food has such potential and is so vital to us. And because of the work we're doing in that school, they've now introduced a course in horticulture and agriculture so that young people who never had a qualification in their life are coming out with something really useful for them to do and build a career on. And then we teach them how to cook it. And then we share that with the mums and dads who want to remember how to do some of the things that they used to do, pickling, bottling, skinning rabbits, whatever it might be. And we've put 1,000 people through free classes to show them those things. And it's all an experiment. And it's all volunteers. And then here's the thing. If you walk through edible landscapes every day of your life and you're learning the importance of seasonal food and growing locally, you are more likely to support local farmers, local businesses, local economy. So I went to speak to our local farmers and I told them how much we wanted to support what they're doing. And they hated me. So I thought, okay, what can I do to convince them I'm serious? So I created a campaign. Every egg matters. And I thought, if I can show them that there's brand loyalty around one product, surely some of them will start to work with us and produce more food in that local landscape. So we created a map of Todmorden. We had 4 places on it originally that were ordinary folks who had chickens selling to each other. And now we've 64. And as a result of that, people are going into shops and they're asking for local food. They're asking for eggs. Some of them are asking for local meat. We fundraised and produced these blackboards so that people could start to write on and stimulate demand for local food. And as a result of that, we've got a really embryonic local food economy coming through. People making beer and bread and cheese when they never were before. Local food in all our restaurants. Visitors coming to our town to eat that local food. And in a survey done by local students, and this is just a volunteer scheme, 46% of all food businesses said their income had increased in the 3 years that we'd been doing this work. So we must be doing something right. But then, how do you join the dots across community and learning and business if all you are is a bunch of people who have got jobs doing something else, not paid with any core funding, not part of any government organisation or anything? How do you join the dots? Well, you just use your imagination. So, we got a bit of land that was given us because, you know, if you're brave and you're bold and you stand up for what you believe in, people come out of the woodwork to help you and to give you things and to make your way easier in getting to where you need to be. So, a local garden centre gave us this very muddy land. We didn't think that was great at the time, but we fundraised and we put a fence around it. And we turned it from that into that, so that the young people from the high school learning that qualification can actually come on this site and go to the next stage and get another qualification in horticulture and start to imagine that they can have a job in the future. And because we were doing that, academics came forward and said, you've got a gap in your qualifications. You need something in commercial horticulture. We'll provide you one. So they went away, and free of charge they did. And we're about to launch it. Once you start thinking about food, the elaboration around it is endless. And then, of course, good old vegetable tourists. What could we do to give the people from Japan and Australia and New Zealand, all of whom came to see how they can incorporate what we're doing in what they're doing, how could we give them a better experience? So we created the Incredible Edible Green Route Map. This was done by some people who volunteered their time in London, who loved what we were doing. And this is a map that links up all our edible sites and our pollination sites, but also takes people past the cafes and the shops and the market hall. And instead of coming to the supermarket and back, they walk around the town and they spend money. And that is what is so important. And the really interesting thing about this is because it also touches on the health centre and the work that we've done there. The doctors at the health centre have adopted that now, reprinted it with the word health in there, and now we've got a healthy green route map where people who actually have got some health problems or obesity problems or whatever it might be can actually walk around the town and walk and eat their way to health. And nobody's paid a penny for any of this. We're just doing it because we know we can make a difference. Because you have to believe in the power of small actions. I have seen it. 37 towns in England are doing this. Hundreds of communities all over the world are talking to us all the time about what they can do. Because for the first time ever, ordinary folks are having this sense of, I want to do something positive, but I didn't know what I can do. Now I know where I can start. I will start with food. It is making a very significant difference to people's lives. And all I can tell you is that through this almost organic process, through the power of believing in small actions being able to change major challenges, we are starting to believe in ourselves again. And we are starting to invest in our own capacity to build a better and a kinder world for our kids. And for me, that's incredible. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.